Tonight, we're going to look at the story of Cornelius and Peter, and I've called it God Brings Peter and Cornelius Together. And he does bring them together for a purpose. Now, I wanted to remember we studied we looked at Stephen and Philip, all who were converts, so to speak, to the Jewish faith, but they were uh, out there significantly uh, carrying on the teachings of Jesus, and so we're gonna look a minute and do some comparison. But one of the things I just thought I would bring up, because we talk about the Torah and then the Mosaic laws. And so I found this neat little uh, textbook explanation of these and the difference between the Torah and the Mosaic laws. So basically, all right, the Torah is the first five books of the Hebrew Bible, and of course, our Bibles. It's the first five books of our Bible. Okay. And its content, it contains narratives, historical records, poetry, genealogies, theological teachings. It tells the story of creation, the patriarchs, the Exodus, and Israel's journey to the promised land, which again, um, that is our first five books too. But okay, its scope, it encompasses the entire foundational history and worldview of the Jewish people, not just rules. Okay, so but when we go to that's the Torah, but when we go to the Mosaic law, uh, laws, it's not to say that they're not based on the Torah, because they are, but it's a and I'm calling it theology because that's really what it is. Okay, so the definition is the specific legal code and covenant established by Moses. Okay, um, and it contains exactly 613 specific commandments detailing rules for worship, morality, and civil governance, and purity. Um, and it is strictly the regulatory and legal framework given to ancient Israel. Now, and so there is a difference. And it's like when we talk about theology, okay, in Christianity, it's theology is man-made, basically. Um, and but it's not specifically, um, well, it's not required. The Mosaic laws were not, they really were only required for the devout Jews. Okay. And so, but basically, the Mosaic laws were kind of like the theology. And what we found with Philip and and Stephen being converts, um, and they were not in Jerusalem, part of that whole Pharisee Sadducee thing. So they were pretty much, they may have observed some of the Mosaic laws, but they weren't devout and strict about them. So I just wanted to clear that up. and clear up. Okay, we talk about Gentiles. Okay, and I'm not sure that we all understand exactly what. Okay, a Gentile is broadly defined as any person of non-Jewish heritage or origin. So, and when we're talking about the heritage, we're talking about the descendants of Abraham and the line of David. Okay, so you could be Jewish, you could be part, like part of the Jewish religion. Okay, but you did not you would not be um, you would not be a Hebrew, a descendant of them, and the converts tended to not be that much involved with the Mosaic laws, uh, because, like I say, they were converts, and that was the case with them. So ancient Jews traditionally viewed Gentiles or non-Jews as ceremonially unclean. While the written Torah did not explicitly forbid associating with foreigners, cultural and religious practice such as Gentile dietary habits, idol worship, and lifestyles, it led Jews to avoid close contact with them to maintain ritual purity. Now we're going to talk about that more when we get to Peter. Okay, so but a Gentile was any non-person of non-Jewish heritage. So, and just as a view, I've talked about it. Okay, Stephen. Okay, Stephen was a convert to the Jewish faith. Uh, he was not deeply committed to the laws and whatnot, and of course, he was a standout speaker for Jesus and his teachings, and of course, he was martyred. Philip came along, um, and he was a convert. He was Jewish by faith. Okay, again, not deeply committed to the Mosaic laws, and he went to the Gentiles, no problem. Now, now when we get to Cornelius, uh, Cornelius was, well, he was Jewish by faith, but of course he was a Gentile. I mean, um, but the point is that he was not devoutly committed to the Mosaic laws and whatnot. Okay, yet he got his guidance from God. All right, and then Peter, of course, strictly adhered to the Jewish laws. All right, and that's going to make a difference when we get to read the scripture. So, all right, we're going to it might be a lot of scripture, maybe not that much, but it is chapter 10. And so just sit back and enjoy the story. Acts 10, 1 through 4.
There was in Caesarea a man called Cornelius, a centurion of the regiment which is called the Italian, a man righteous and God fearing, as were all his household, who gave alms to the people abundantly, and always sought after God. Very openly, in a vision, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he saw an angel of God who came into him and said to him, Cornelius. And he looked at the angel and was afraid, and he said, What is it, my Lord? And the angel said to him, Your prayers and your alms have come up for memorial before God.
Okay, Acts 10, 5 through 8.
And now send men to the city of Joppa and bring here Simon, who was called Peter. Behold, he is staying with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the seaside. And when the angel who spoke to him had departed, Cornelius called two of his household and a soldier who believed in God and was obedient to him. And he related to them everything that he had seen. and sent them to Joppa.
Okay, just a side note here. If you can imagine this, um, uh, he- Cornelius, received received this information, mysteriously or whatever, and had he had he couldn't have told everybody. I mean, and that's the way things are today too. But anyway, just a note on that. He could only tell people whom he trusted and who also believed like he did. Okay, now so let's just look at the centurion a little bit. Um, Cornelius was eager to receive the gospel according to Jesus. He was a member of the Jewish faith, but evidently he had not found full satisfaction. He had heard about Jesus, his healing power, and some of his teachings. He did not know how to get in touch with those who were in possession of his gospel to ask them to share it with his household. Being a Gentile and an army officer, his task was difficult and peculiar. But of course, God helped him. All right. The government was deliberately trying to stamp out this new movement. This made it difficult for him to approach Jesus' disciples, whom he thought might suspect his sincerity. So the centurion is showing a whole lot of faith uh, and guidance by God. Now, I like to put a little map in here so we get a little color, whatnot, just so you understand. Because, okay, we have Jerusalem here, and these are still the same today. Jerusalem, of course, is inland, but Joppa is on the coast, and so is Caesarea. And just thought you might like to see that. And of course, you got the Jordan River here and the Sea of Galilee up here. So, all right. Acts 10 9 through 12.
The next day, while they were on their journey, drawing near to the city, Simon Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about noontime. He became hungry and wanted to eat, but while they were preparing food for him, he fell into a trance. And he saw the heaven open and something fastened at the four corners, resembling a large linen cloth, was let down from heaven to the earth. And there were in all kinds of four-footed beasts and creeping things of the earth and birds of the air.
Acts 10 13 through 16.
And there came a voice to him saying, Simon Peter, rise, kill and eat. But Simon Peter said, Far be it, my Lord, for I have never eaten anything which was unclean and defiled. And again the voice came to him a second time. What God has cleansed, you should not call unclean. This happened the third time. Then the cloth was lifted up to the heaven.
Right, so let's look at Peter now. Um, and we know Peter was one of the apostles. He traveled with Jesus, he was taught by Jesus, and he was designated to be the leader after Jesus was resurrected and left. Um, and so, but and Peter was a devout Jew, all right, and he maintained strict adherence to the laws. And I put a little bit in here. All of this is fascinating if you were interested, just in the uh, the overall picture of the Jewish ways then, and some of it is now. So, okay, so back then they did not eat pork, shellfish like lobster and shrimp. They do not eat that. Predatory birds or any meat mixed with dairy. Land animals must have cloven hooves and chew their cud, and seafood must have fins and scales. Meat and dairy cannot be eaten together. Um, just a little note on this: when I was in Israel, uh, I went to I went to a Shabbat meal, and it was interesting because they did. Or you, if you, they don't serve butter, for your roll or whatnot, because they served meat like steak or something. And I mean, that goes for a whole lot of other things, but that was one of the experiences with that meal. But they did, for non-Jews, uh, they did provide butter if you want to, but they do not eat meat and mix and dairy at the same meal. It's not just they don't mix it together, it's you don't eat it at the same meal. Okay, so now I may have had this before, but I'm going to read it again, uh, because those were things, and that was put in the vision, in Peter's vision. All right, and the sheet-like thing that he saw that had the four corners represented the four corners of the earth. Okay, um, and uh, so what it was is that ancient Jews uh, traditionally viewed Gentiles, which we just learned are non-Jews, as ceremonially unclean. And so, uh, while the written Torah did not explicitly forbid associating with foreigners, cultural and religious practices such as Gentile dietary habits, idol worship, and lifestyles led Jews to avoid close contact with them to maintain ritual purity. And remember, cleanliness. Um, I'm sure that I'm sure that from the Bible, the saying that cleanliness is next to God. Uh, I think that's probably where it came from. But in any event, uh, that's the background on this. And so he wasn't okay. Wait a minute. So he wasn't saying it wasn't saying it's a yes, Peter. You have got to learn uh, to uh, to eat these foods. But the other thing that it was saying is you have got to associate with the non-Jews and foreigners because Peter Peter as yet had not gone to convert any Gentiles, and the reason was because it was forbidden by his religion, and he was a devout Jew. Okay, all right, Acts 10:17 through 20.
Now, while Simon Peter was bewildered, wondering in himself what the vision he had seen should mean, the men who were sent by Cornelius arrived and inquired for the house in which Simon Peter had been staying. They came and stood at the door of the courtyard. And from there they called and asked if Simon, who was called Peter, stayed there. While Simon Peter meditated about the vision, the Spirit said to him, Behold, three men seek you. Arise, go down and go with them without doubt in your mind, for I have sent them.
Acts 10, 21 through 24.
Then Simon Peter went down to the men and said, I am the man you seek. What is the purpose of your mission? They said to him, a man called Cornelius, a righteous and God fearing centurion, of whom all the Jewish people speak well, was told in a vision by a holy angel to send and bring you to his house and to hear words from you. So Simon Peter brought them into the place where he was staying and welcomed them. The next day he arose and went with them, and a few men from amongst the brethren of Joppa accompanied him. And the next day they entered Caesarea, and Cornelius was waiting for them, and all of his relatives and also his dear friends were assembled with him.
Acts 10, 25 through 29.
And just as Simon Peter was entering, Cornelius met him and threw himself at his feet and worshiped him. But Simon Peter raised him, saying, stand up, I am but a man also. And after he had talked with him, he went in and found a great many people had come there. So he said to them, you know well that it is unlawful for a Jew to associate with a stranger who is not of his tribe. But God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. This is why I came at once when you sent for me. But now let me ask you, for what reason have you sent for me?
Okay, Acts 10, 30 to 33.
Then Cornelius said to him, 4 days I have been fasting, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, while I was praying in my house, a man dressed in white garments stood before me and said to me, Cornelius, your prayer has been heard, and your alms are a memorial before God. But send to the city of Joppa and bring Simon, who is called Peter. Behold, he is staying in the house of Simon the tanner by the seaside, and he will come and talk with you. And at that very time I sent for you, and you have done well to come. Behold, we are all here present before you, and we wish to hear everything commanded you from God.
Okay, Acts 10, 34 to 35.
Then Simon Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth, I perceive that God is no respecter of persons, but among all people who reveres him and works righteousness is accepted with him.
All right. Okay, that's the story. Um, and I put a little note here because when I looked at no respecter of persons, what that means is God does not show favoritism, partiality, or bias, and uh, uh, that is what Simon Peter learned as a result of God guiding Cornelius to him, and then Jesus and God showing Peter that, hey, you can't you can't not go to the Gentiles. And essentially, if you look at it, he's saying Peter's adherence to the Mosaic laws, um, which was his religion. He, that's what he followed. But God said, no, you gotta, you that's not the case. All you've got to forget your religion. Maybe not all of it, but you got to understand that, um, all people there are there. and it came, the Jewish, all of that, those laws and the exclusiveness. I mean, it came from the beginning because they were the chosen people, so to speak. But Peter learned that day that he was going to have to forget about that part of his religion, which was the Mosaic law, part of the Mosaic laws. He would have to forget about that if he's going to go out and uh, convert Gentiles or go out and teach Gentiles. So um, I wanted to, okay, let me just go. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit. Okay, we talk about visions and dreams. It's the way they wrote about these experiences that people had with God. All right, and there's many in the Bible, and we do. But the reason I wanted to, I wanted to, I pulled out these visions that we read tonight. Okay, um, openly. So very openly in a vision. Okay, um, he saw an angel of God who came into him. Now, okay, we don't think about the fact that these visions, as they are in the Bible, okay, that's they're in the Bible and that's what happened. But no, they're expressed as visions and dreams. But we have these occurrences all the time, and I guess depending on your background and what your beliefs are. Okay, but so uh, Cornelius, okay, Cornelius was praying, okay, and it came to him, God, and these thoughts came to him. And so I guess what I wanted to bring out is that these visions and dreams and whatnot that we talk about, these are these are God's thoughts. God, and we do it all the time. When you're praying, you don't even have to be praying, but you get this, you get these thoughts, and it provides guidance. And so, and then they talk about, well, Peter was on the rooftop and he fell into a trance. Well, we actually do that too. I mean, he fell into a trance because he was on a rooftop. It was warm, it was hot, and he was experiencing the smell of the baking going on below, and it just kind of put him in a in a state that he was able to uh, naturally just hear and see what was shown to him in a dream. Okay, and then as you go on, okay, he had the vision, he had the dream. Let's say that. All right, and then he was wondering in himself what the vision he had seen should mean. We do that. We do that all the time. We sit and think about. Wait a minute, what? Whoa, I wonder what this is, and we do it all the time, and then as they say here, Peter was meditating about the vision, and the Spirit said to him. So I just wanted to I just wanted to make it clear that yes, it's a great story, and all these visions and dreams in the Bible are really great, but it's not necessarily just in the Bible. These are things that, and especially if you know the teachings of Jesus, and that God is spirit and God is everywhere, um, then you know that's what Jesus was trying to get at. That if everybody would be guided by God, would follow God's guidance, we'd have a whole different world. Anyway, I just that just came to me to talk about that too. All right. And then one other thing to mention here. religion. All right. Now, um, again, these are textbook Google um, definitions here. Religion is an organized system of beliefs, practices, and worldviews that connect humanity to the spiritual, transcendental, or divine. Okay, well, that's all right. That's a definition. It typically involves the worship of a higher power, a moral code, and shared rituals that help individuals find meaning in the universe. Now, so the main point here is that religion is man made. Okay. And so if we go back to looking at the Torah and the Mosaic Law, essentially the the Jewish religion back then, they had their theology, and pretty much that was wrapped up with the Mosaic laws. And men decided, okay, just like Moses decided that they would kill the man that was picking up sticks on Sunday. Well, again, it's man-made, and so and nowadays it's the same thing. I mean, we have tons of different denominations in Christianity, and they all go to the Bible, and they find, they put together whatever they can pull out, whatever they want to, believe in, all that kind of stuff. That's what it is. That's what it is today. But and as far as I'm concerned, today, all right, it is so organized. Um, I don't know, religion is very difficult for me, but um, but I just wanted to bring that up because Peter, being a devout Jew, uh, Peter um, practicing his religion devoutly, what was a stumbling block for him, because he could not go out among the Gentiles. So anyway, I just wanted to I wanted to bring that up, and uh, that kind of concludes the story. But I said in that it was for a purpose. God brought Peter and Cornelius together for a purpose, and that purpose, um, to show Peter, um, that the laws of his religion were not in sync with God's laws. Okay, now not all of it, but particularly the one where he could not go out and be among Gentiles. And so Peter's strict adherence to the Mosaic laws at that point, okay, up until that point, prevented him from teaching Jesus' kingdom message to Gentiles. And and that's pretty much why we saw him sending out Stephen and Philip, because the strict Mosaic laws and adherence to the Jewish law, that it didn't apply to them, because they were converts. So, all right. So that's the story, and my for discussion tonight. Oh, and really and truly, we appreciate your contributions. Um, so, discussion. Can religion be a stumbling block between us and God?